The Super Smash Bros. Series is well known for its diverse selection of characters, and of everything we fans enjoy about this series, guessing who will be joining the lineup is always the source of the biggest discussions. We look for patterns and we come up with fan rules to justify our thinking, but really, we don't need to. Over the years, series creator Masahiro Sakurai has gone on the record to discuss the creative process, what has changed game on game, and what has remained the same since the very beginning. That's what this Source Gaming series is all about. I am NantenJex, and with the help of YouTuber Yoshiilla, we're going to teach you all the secrets of character selection for the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. Super Smash Bros. 4 brought in a lot of firsts for the series when regarding its production. It was the first time two games were being developed simultaneously, where two systems had to be considered. It was the first game to have downloadable content post-release, and it was the first game to take alternative costumes and morph them into playable characters. That means, when it comes to looking at the list of cut characters, we have some interesting reasons for why they didn't make the game. And starting us off on this little deep dive is probably the most famous cut character of this title, the Ice Climbers. A melee veteran, a fan favourite, and a unique character for the series, Popo and Nana found themselves ejected from the Super Smash Bros. Series in this duology of titles, and the reason is entirely technical. In a Q&A from Sakurai's Famitsu column, the director said, "Even if I cram in as many fighters as I can, there are some people who are focused on the few who didn't make it back. Among them are the Ice Climbers, who were playable during development on the Wii U. However, moving the two as a pair required significant processing power. The 3DS was already being pushed to its limit, and I couldn't get them to work no matter how hard I tried. So I gave up on them." So clearly, the intention here was for this pair to make the cut, and were even playable on the Wii U, but the Nintendo 3DS just couldn't handle it. In a later addendum, Sakurai even stated that even after he, and I quote, "removed as many joints as I possibly could, and even when I removed certain effects like gravity, they still wouldn't work." So that explains the Ice Climbers, but they were not the only character cut for technical reasons when transitioning from Brawl to Smash 4. Pokemon Trainer also saw himself made to leave, along with both Squirtle and Ivysaur. The reason for this is also because of the Nintendo 3DS's limitations. In the same aforementioned Q&A, when Sakurai was asked why Zelda and Sheik and Samus and Zero Suit Samus were separated, he said, "Basically, it comes down to the limitations of the 3DS. It is a portable device, and no matter how you slice it, having two characters coexist at once is impossible. Pokemon Trainer is 3 characters, so it's even more impossible." Despite the cut, Charizard got to stay as his own character, but Squirtle and Ivysaur did not. There are 2 reasons for this really. One was a conscious effort from Sakurai not to flood the roster with too many Pokemon characters, something also considered with the Super Mario series. Then, of these 3 Pokemon, Charizard is easily the most popular, appearing frequently near the top of Pokemon popularity polls. So if any of the 3 were to stay, Charizard was the most likely candidate. It's also possible that Sakurai didn't want to fill the roster with too many Gen 1 Pokemon, as there was already 2 with Pikachu and Jigglypuff. However, Mewtwo would come back as DLC, so maybe that wasn't an issue. Roy would also come back as DLC, and Dr. Mario made it into the base game, which covers 3 of our cut characters in Brawl, making a comeback. Unfortunately, both Young Link and Pichu remained in melee limbo, presumably due to being low priority and having characters on the roster already who could do what they did. That same logic can be applied to our next cut character, Wolf. Wolf was already the last character added to Brawl, only making it in over other Star Fox characters because he could have had an easy moveset grafted from Fox and Falco, unlike Crystal. But with both Fox and Falco coming back, Sakurai and his team likely felt there was no real need to have Wolf back as well, so they put their focus into making newcomers instead. Then when DLC came around, Lucas, who was also previously cut, was seemingly the more popular choice of the 2. Ness also didn't have a semi-clone in the game yet, which Fox obviously did, so variety is still a factor in keeping Wolf away. The last character cut from the game is one of Brawl's 2 third-party characters, Solid Snake of Metal Gear Solid. Fan speculation on his exclusion has run wild, with many blaming Konami, or the drama between them and Kojima at the time, being the main reason, but these claims are unfounded. The real reason Snake was cut just seems to be a lack of priority from Sakurai himself. In an interview with Kojima conducted by Jeff Keighley in 2014, he revealed that Sakurai had not even approached him to ask about adding Snake into the game. so the decision to not add Snake in came entirely from Sakurai and his team, and while Sakurai likely wanted every character to return, Snake being a third party made the process much more complicated. The team likely felt it was better to focus on adding new third party instead. As for why Sonic got to stay and not Snake, it may simply be due to Sonic being both easier to develop and fitting in with the other characters more easily. Some of Snake's moves, like his chokehold grab, required lots of approval from the creators of the characters being chokehold, and the process may have been long and tedious. This part is a bit of speculation from me though, as no one has ever gone into detail around this. But that does it for the veterans who didn't make it. So what about potential newcomers? First, let's rapid fire through some characters that can be easily explained, where the reasoning is pretty clear cut. Takamaru. Being considered once again, but only for a moment, Sakurai believed that the character simply wasn't popular enough to make the cut, which is fair given at this point in time the character hadn't even had a single game launch in the West. In fact, he may have only been considered because of the reveal of Takamaru's Ninja Castle in Nintendo Land, which would have happened around this time. Ridley. Ridley is too big. It's the same reason as why he didn't make it into Brawl. Sakurai wasn't confident in being able to make Ridley still feel like Ridley if he was shrunk down and had his ability to fly removed. Gino. Again, just like Ridley, the same reason for why Gino didn't make it into Brawl applies here. He's old and obscure despite getting quite a lot of fan requests. However, Sakurai did manage to implement him as a DLC Mii costume, which is kind of a consolation prize. Heihachi. When asked about Pac-Man's inclusion into Super Smash Bros., Sakurai was also asked about other potential characters from Bandai Namco that were considered. Sakurai said that there were other characters up for consideration from the company, name-dropping Heihachi, but none of these candidates were strong contenders, and in the end, Pac-Man was the only real choice. As for why Heihachi specifically didn't make it, it is because Sakurai felt like implementing Tekken movements into the Super Smash Bros. Series would be difficult. Which is a pretty funny statement given Kazuya's eventual inclusion in Ultimate. Final Fantasy. When deciding DLC for the game, Sakurai and the team had decided on a Final Fantasy character, rather than specifically Cloud. Although in the end, Cloud was really the obvious choice as the most popular Final Fantasy character out there. In an interview with Tetsuya Nomura of Final Fantasy VII fame, Sakurai mentioned that when polling for votes, Cloud took between a quarter to a third of all votes for the series. Note here, we don't know if this is the Smash ballot he's referring to, or just some other poll. In that same interview, both Terra from Final Fantasy VI and Bartz from Final Fantasy V were name-dropped by Sakurai as potential candidates, but he worried that they weren't recognisable enough. Nomura and Sakurai then go on to jokingly mention Strago from Final Fantasy VI and Fusuya from Final Fantasy IV, two old men who are certainly not real contenders, but shows that Sakurai at least thought of them. Reggie Fils-Aimé, Shigeru Miyamoto, and Satoru Iwata. Speaking of jokes, these choices are definitely not, I promise you. These are some very serious contenders for a position. I would never lie to you. So Sakurai was asked about the potential of this trio making the cut in an interview with Video Gamer, but Sakurai brushed it off, saying that he didn't feel like they would be very interesting to a wide audience, and would rather focus on adding newcomers people would know. So while not a real contender for the game, Sakurai did at least consider the merits and feasibility of adding Nintendo executives for the game before politely saying no. Sora. Lastly, Sora from Kingdom Hearts. While Bayonetta would be crowned the winner of the Smash ballot, Sakurai later revealed that technically Sora was the real winner. But due to the Goliath task of getting Sora into the game, with all the rights issues Nintendo would have to navigate between Disney and Square Enix, it just wasn't possible without some kind of miracle. And miracles only happen when you least expect them. Foreshadowing. By this notion, there may have been other candidates who also fall into this category and couldn't make it. Sakurai also mentioned that Banjo and Kazooie scored really high in the Smash ballot, possibly even coming in second, but rights issues with them also held them back. Then we know characters like King K. Rool scored very highly, but were also passed over, or in this case given a Mii costume as a consolation prize. But the reason they were passed over isn't clear. Maybe they didn't score higher than Bayonetta, or maybe they didn't meet some specific requirement Nintendo had laid out, like relevancy. At least many of them will get their chance in the next game. So there are a few more characters left to go, but they require a bit more explanation than these previous ones, and 3 of them can be grouped together, so I'll save them for last, and instead, let's look at Alf. Technically, Alf made the cut, but just as an alternative costume for Olimar. But at one point in development, the plucky rookie explorer was going to get his own character slot in the same way that Lucina, Dr. Mario and Dark Pit did. All three were originally costumes and got the upgrade, but Alf did not. Technically, neither did the Koopalings, but before any one of you even attempts to argue that they may have also been considered, we have more concrete info on Alf. Specifically, we actually have some developer notes from Sakurai dated to being midway through the game's development, probably around the time the clone characters were being decided on. This note says, consider including Alf, Pikmin 3 protagonist, as a clone character. That's pretty cut and dry there, but we can go deeper, as looking into the game's files reveals that Rock Pikmin were also planned at some point and cut, and so it seems likely that Alf would have had Rock Pikmin as the main thing to differentiate him from Olimar. So why didn't it happen? We can't know for sure, but it may have been a case that there wasn't anything really to make Alf stand out. Sakurai may not have found a way to make Rock Pikmin unique, and without that, Alf had nothing justifying him having his own slot, in the same way that Lucina, Dr. Mario and Dark Pit did. It may have also been a time thing. Alf could have just been the lowest priority on the list, and there just wasn't enough time to make him his own character, especially when you consider the trophies, amiibo, and other unique additions individual characters need. Now, this finally brings us to the final 3 cut characters, who I save for last as they are some of the most well known, large in part to one of the biggest rumours in Super Smash Bros. History, the Gamatsu leak. To make a long story short, the Gamatsu leak was a series of rumours around newcomers added to Super Smash Bros. 4 posted on the Gamatsu website by Sal Romano, and they were always accurate. To give you an idea, the Gamatsu leak managed to call Villager, Mega Man, Wii Fit Trainer, Palutena, Little Mac, Pac-Man, the Mii's, and Shulk, all before they were revealed. Rosalina was missed out, but that's partly because in the period between the first reveal of newcomers and Rosalina's reveal, Sal didn't supply any updates, and so Rosalina was already confirmed by the time round 2 of the rumours were dropped. But amongst all of the characters called, there were 3 more that, at the time, casted suspicion over the claims made. Someone from Pokemon, Chrom from Fire Emblem, and the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven. Obviously, we would get someone from Pokemon in Greninja, but readers at the time found it sus that Sal didn't know the specific Pokemon when he had been so clear on the other choices. However, Chrom and Chorus Kids did not make the cut. In fact, Robin and Lucina got in the game over Chrom, and Rhythm Heaven didn't get any kind of major rep in the game, not even a stage. But thanks to quotes from Sakurai and data mining, we can say for certain that the Gamatsu leak was 100% accurate. When discussing Greninja's inclusion, Sakurai mentions that the Pokemon X and Y games were still in development. Sakurai knew the game would launch before Smash 4, but it wasn't far enough along in 2012 that any specific Pokemon could be decided on. So Sakurai left a space open specifically for someone from Pokemon, and then came back to the idea when Game Freak had finished the Pokemon designs for Gen 6. This is something he's done in prior games with other series, such as Brawl, where he left a space open for someone from Fire Emblem because Path of Radiance wasn't far enough along yet. Game Freak sent Sakurai a bundle of upcoming Pokemon for the game and let him decide which one would be added, and he settled on Greninja. A very smart move given that Greninja would go on to become the most popular Pokemon of its generation. We have no idea what other Pokemon Sakurai was sent, although we can speculate with confidence that at least the other final starters, Chestnut and Delphox, were in the running. Moving on to Chrom, in a column discussing adding characters like Wii Fit and Villager, characters that are very unique, Sakurai revealed that Chrom was cut because, well, he wasn't. When planning out the game, Sakurai knew he wanted a character from Fire Emblem Awakening, and Chrom was the obvious choice as its protagonist. Sakurai even developed a moveset for him, but when it came down to it, this moveset ended up being a mix of Marth and Ike. He would just play as another blue-haired Fire Emblem swordsman, whereas Robin had the whole sword and sorcery concept going for them. It allowed their individuality to shine through where Chrom's did not. But from this, we know that Chrom was also intended for the game and just got replaced with Robin a bit into development. Lastly, the Chorus Kids, and Sakurai has never commented on them. For the longest time, we only had the Gamatsu leak as a source, which had a near 99% accuracy at this point. However, through the power of data mining, our own Push Dustin discovered several references to cut content and universes to be included in the game. In the database for the series emblems, under the fighter section, he found references to a series titled Rhythm, clearly intended to be Rhythm Heaven, as it was also ordered as a Nintendo IP over a third party. While this doesn't outright confirm it was the Chorus Kids specifically, this is heavy evidence that a Rhythm Heaven character was in development at one point. Hopefully one day Sakurai will give us more insight into this and why they were cut. If it was the Chorus Kids, then maybe there was an issue with getting all three to run at once, similar to the Ice Climbers, or maybe the moveset idea Sakurai had was harder to implement in the game than he originally thought. Or they could have just been cut for time. And that does it for all the potential characters conceived for Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. And now, we can finally move on to the latest game in the series, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for Nintendo Switch. So join me in the next episode as we look at the base game roster for the final entry in the Super Smash Bros. Series. A big thank you to Yoshila for editing this video. A link to his channel will also be around somewhere, maybe on screen, maybe in the description, who knows, we'll decide, maybe both in fact. And on screen right now should be our patrons, the $5 up tier, and we want to give a special thank you to them for helping to fund us and make this all a possibility. If you like this video, do the usual stuff, and now we're in the final running for this little series we've got going on. Ultimate is the last game left. We'll probably cover it in multiple videos, just like we did Smash 4. And yeah, look forward to that. I'll promise that I won't take as long as it took me to do this one. So subscribe so that you can make sure that you always remember to return to the source.